Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Currently on the East Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer, also on the East Coast as always. And we are looking at play props from game one of this NBA Finals series. Also got best bets up in a separate episode, so make sure to subscribe to that page so you can follow along for the rest of this championship series with us. Also head to thelines.com. Use that prop finder tool that we have there under the NBA tab to make sure you're getting the best lines and odds available to you from all of these books giving us play props the rest of this final series. Now let's go ahead and jump into your first one here as we talk about Luka.
Yeah, Luka, and actually going under 40.5 points and assists is the gamble I'm willing to take because, look, this is what he averaged against the Wolves. And so for that to be the number to open this series is inflated. Like, I mean, he closed that series touching God, as we saw, like just hitting the most ridiculous shots, 43% from deep throughout the series. I mean, whereas he came into that in the previous two series shooting like 36% from three in these playoffs. And I talked about how OKC was a much better matchup for him because Dort and J-Dub are that kind of physical yet quick, defending profile that Jaden McDaniels is not. He is just too slim to deal with Luka. And against OKC, I mean, he did not average 40.5. He averaged 33 points and assists and went under this in 5 of 6. The one over it, he had a 32% usage rate and just barely got there. So I think between Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown, the Celtics have good starting points to deal with him, that they will be able to send some help and kind of, get him off the ball at times, some blitzing maybe, which has been effective at times, but not enough blitzing to completely compromise their defense the way Minnesota did. And then you get burned with all these assists, especially if Zinger is healthy. Then they have both him and they have these extremely athletic guards on the low end. If you talk about Tatum being a guard or Derek White, whoever it is in a help position to come in and deny those lobs and deny those corner threes. Boston was the best team in the league denying corner threes all year. So, I mean, the assists are only at 8.5, and that's fair. I guess I'm fading the points a little bit more, but I think honestly he could go for 32-5, 32-7 even, and you're still under here. I think the game plan from the Celtics is going to be like, we're not selling out. Like, this is not a Steve Nash game plan, you know what I mean? Or a Jokic game plan where it's like, let him get 50 and like shut everybody else off. They're like, no, we're just going to make sure he does not both get off and distribute and like get everything. And then we're really in trouble, which is what has been the case for Luka against this Wolves team. And they can watch all that film about everything the Wolves coaching staff and players did wrong and be like, look, we're going to adjust to this and be much more effective against Luka. In the regular season, did scorch them. I mean, I talked about his numbers against Drew. Those are regular season numbers, and it's still only 45, 44. And you got to expect it to dip in the playoffs, especially in game one of the NBA Finals, especially with all of the attention after he just completely destroyed the Wolves to close that series.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I agree with you on this is a lot more centered around the assists. I'm be honest. I think blitz all you want. I don't think that there is I don't know. Maybe we should be talking about Jason Tatum guarding Luka, to be honest, more than anybody else. There's nobody with more length. Now, Jaylen Brown will probably be doing the bulk of the work, but as we know, one, the Celtics are as switchable as can be. They're the most switchable defense in the league. That's not even a question. When you have Drew Holiday and Derek White as your guards, I mean, those are shot blocking guards for the love of God. So you're able to switch as much as you can and want. Derek White did get hunted by Luka a bit. And I just think my main point that I'm making is like, I'm not here to fade Luka points. I'm here to definitely bet on them going over. So I prefer just the assists. And I think like Boston is going to continue to take those corners away. Like they do everything a little bit better, honestly, than Minnesota. Like maybe you talk about Gobert's shot blocking abilities better than the Zingers or whatever. Although Ant Edwards once said Kristaps Porzingis was the best shot blocker at the rim in the NBA, if you remember that from a couple seasons ago. But more importantly, like as far as guarding the corners go, like I don't think Boston knows any other way. I don't think they're going to sag off of a Josh Green or a Derek Jones Jr. very often in this series. And so like I think they'll keep that out, which means fewer assists. And then once you add that two big lineup in there, which was the most successful lineup that the Celtics had at limiting that lob threat for Luka in the last game they played in March, when they did play some Al and Zinger together, that worked for taking away that lob on the back end as well. So like if that happens, yeah, maybe, once they have both the bigs on the floor, okay, the assists are a little bit more available. I still just think that's the preferred bet for me, and 8.5 makes sense. And I still feel better going under on that in general. But my first bet is still also on Luka, who is the sun around which this series revolves, as we know. And it's going to be for his rebounds. We're still getting plus money on the over 9.5. This is something that he's now done very consistently, getting 10 super consistently. So I understand he's butting up against it, but there's very strong core reasoning for those rebounds coming Luka's way. One, nobody's going to have his teammates defer more to him than anybody else. Luka's in the top 5 in terms of not deferring his rebound chances. Everyone else around him, like Gafford, had 3 per game for the OKC series. Even Lively had a few 1.8 per game as well in terms of the deferred rebounds that he let somebody else get, which I would imagine was quite often Luka, as you see guys sort of pull their hands back and allow Luka to pull the rebound down when 2 of them are going for it. Just speed it up and get it going for that fast break, or at least for the transition offense that we talk about. And really the other thing is just he's doing that. Not only are his teammates great, let's let Luka get these boards. You see his eyes light up as soon as a shot comes up from the opposite side from where he's standing, because that's the most consistent place you're going to get rebounds, right? If someone shoots from one side of the basket, it's going to most likely go off and carry him to the other side where he's standing, or short where he might be standing on the same side, and then it falls right to him as well. But that's been what he's doing, is getting these easy boards, not playing very strong defense in the corner. Big reason why they give up those corner threes. We've talked about this a good amount, and what it usually leads to is him getting those rebounds. He's got a 66.7% rebound chance success rate, which leads the team, is in the top 5 in the playoffs as well for players who qualify by at least playing 4 games and playing and getting at least a certain amount of rebound chances per game. But if you give him that consistently, he's going to have about 15, 16 rebound chances as a result of this. If he's picking up 2/3 of those, right, we're getting right at about 10, which I think will continue to be the case. Plus with this team, you've got Kristaps and Papa Al pulling the centers from the basket. So now you've got Luka down there kind of going up against guys like Tatum and Brown more so than he's going to be going up against Kristaps or Papa Al, right? So the simplicity of it will be there for him. The only other thing I would add real quick is if you want to take a combo bet for he and Tatum on their rebounds, you can go to the head-to-head player props in a couple different spots. On DK, it's 18.5 combined for both of them. I think at least one, if not both of them, are getting 10 in this game. So, right, and easily could see Tatum at 11 or 12 as well, which then you only need roughly 8 from Luka, right? And you're in a really good spot. So, even if you want to put that out there as well, I think that's a really solid bet. It's minus 120 because it's very likely to happen, but 18.5 is a really low number for both these dudes getting boards.
Yeah, I mean, it's juicy. I like it better than a double-double, which is not at all juicy. And it's obviously he's going to get that double-double if he has 10 boards. So I think it's worth the juice there in terms of him getting the 10 rebounds. And the logic is why the ball will bounce to him. If I like the under, I've got to endorse this. And I guess that's why I didn't take the whole PRA bundle. I took under points assists for Luka because I do think there's a good possibility he can get those 10 boards based on how this game might shake out. So I'm gonna stick with Jaylen Brown here, who I mentioned in the series props. Like him to average over 23 for the series. I like him to score over 23.5 in game 1 here. And I like him to come out in the first quarter and get his 6 points, who I'm surprised Josh was not all over this. He's been on Jaylen Brown first quarter stuff for a while, even though he does not play the whole first quarter. He is the opener for the Celtics, like an MLB team that likes to throw somebody in those first 7 minutes and throw them hard. That's what the Celtics do with Jaylen Brown. I think he will have the better matchup versus Tatum. If Derek Jones is on him, he's just too light. Maybe he'll be able to get some Luka on him in the cross match, and he has really come at Luka, averaging 27 a game on 60% shooting the last 4 matchups against Luka Doncic. He's in the first quarter in particular. He's gone over in 6 of the last 7 at home, and much more consistently at home in Boston. If you can just kind of picture it, it's that Jaylen Brown lift. You got the PA guy, Jaylen Brown over and over in the first quarter. You can see it happening for sure. And even with the zinger in there, he averaged 7.2 in the first quarter. after the All-Star break. While both him and Tatum see a dip in scoring without Zinger, that first quarter kind of initiation sticks with Jalen. You can see it in those numbers and in the usage early on. I personally I'm a little skeptical about how much the Zinger will be involved right out of the gates. So I think that does lead to more Jaylen Brown. I do think PJ Washington will do a good job on Tatum, and that Jalen will get the right opportunities to attack smaller defenders, and that his ability to stop before he gets all the way to the rim, which is what Dallas denies so well, and burn some teams in the mid-range, I think is what makes him such a good matchup against Dallas in the series.
Yeah, JB just started sort of taking a back seat to Tatum a lot in the last series in the first quarter. So that's the only reason I kind of stayed away from him at this point. But opening a series as well, I can understand that him coming out really strong. The 5.5 number also kind of came down a little bit. There were some books opening at 6.5 right when these numbers came out. For the props in this series, right as soon as Dallas won that last game there in Game 5, then some of the opening numbers were JB at 6.5, and I was like, well, no, come on, man, his minutes are still down at about 8 or so in the first quarter. But look, 5.5, great. The 5 number is massive as well. I'll just bring it up. If you did take an alt like 5+ and add it to something else for him, that's something he's done 90% of the time in the playoffs, and that 5 number has hit like 6 times in the playoffs. It's the most common number that he lands on here in the first quarter. Look, that's not the strongest supporting data in the world, but it's at least worth mentioning. Let me close out here, Nate, with, a little bit of a dissenting pick here. There's dissent between us, I should say, at least in talking about some of the backups for the Celtics. But I do want to start by taking an under for Peyton Pritchard. I think that we are seeing his minutes legitimately drop for a good reason. So I took this before it dropped to 8.5 PRA. So maybe either I pushed it or somebody agrees with me, or a lot of people agree with me. But it was 9.5 for the PRA. Get really good juice now, even money for him to go under 8.5, which is still available, still worth it to me for the even money. The key here, honestly, the thing that I'm scared of more than anything is that he just hits 2 corner threes in the roughly 10 to 15 minutes that I project him to play. And then he's almost there. Obviously, just needs the 3 RA at that point to get you there. But I think he's only going to be getting up 2 max 3 threes. And I think they're predominantly going to come in the first half. Like, if he doesn't get a lot of this stuff in the first half, and we'll probably still see him come in, let's say 4 minutes left in the first quarter, play into the second quarter, and then come out for most of the rest of the second quarter, which has been his rotation minutes. But then in the second half, he's also been getting normal rotation minutes up until the end of this last series. And in any game where they were like, oh crap, we were close in the fourth quarter and we need to win this one, which has only happened basically twice before the Pacers series, and then twice in the Pacers series, where it was like they were down or close going into the fourth, and then they were like, okay, we can't be messing around putting Peyton in there. But the rotation for me from Peyton always throughout this playoffs really felt like, let's just get this kid some time, because we're playing the Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat. They also don't have Terry Rozier. Now we're playing without Donovan Mitchell against the Cavs. Now we're playing the Pacers without. So in those moments, it was like, great, we can get him in there. He's not going to be any kind of liability. Maybe he's a slightly better defender than I'm giving him credit for, but not against Luka Doncic. Go back and watch Luka Doncic just abuse him in the last one. He's going to hunt you down, right? And if it's Peyton Pritchard is anywhere on the floor, his sniper rifle is just going to finally find that scope right on Peyton P, and be like, all right, great, let's get this going. So, look, in the last 2, down to 14 minutes of Game 3, 9 minutes in Game 4, didn't make it to the fourth quarter of any of those games because it was close, like I said, and Boston was finally willing to trim that rotation back down to about 7 guys. I know you're going to talk about the Sam Hauser stuff. I think Sam Hauser has more of a place in this series. I think height is too crucial at this point. If you put Peyton on somebody like Kyrie, you're toast. Maybe you hide him on somebody like Derrick Jones Jr. Guess what? Guess who's screening for Luka as soon as he's guarding Derrick Jones Jr. and now he's flying to the rim. So I'm very confident that Peyton doesn't really have much to bring to this series outside of the corner 3. And there's plenty of other dudes who can hit that corner 3 for the Celtics that are not going to be as abusable, if you will, on defense. But your retort.
Yeah, I mean, it's the strongest theory is that he just can't survive defensively. He's underrated as a defender. He is a guy who, very much like Kyrie, is not going to give up much just because he's giving up size. He outworks everybody. I just told you, he's TJ McConnell with a 3-point shot, and TJ, who played so well defensively against the Knicks. I just don't want to fade this kid. I think the bigger the moment is, the more he will deliver, even if it's in limited opportunities. He can score going to the basket. He is underrated in that regard. He's underrated in so many ways that I don't think that's who I want to fade as much as Sam Hauser, who, yeah, if he's not able to hit a three, which is big time plus money, by the way, for him to go under half a three. And remember, he played like 9 minutes in a couple games as well. And now that they have more size with Horford off the bench, that seems like Hauser is more expendable. Like Peyton is still, you got to run some offense when the guards are off. And so I think his like 18 minutes potential is still there. And just that, I just trust him a lot more to make plays. I don't think Dallas is the biggest team, aside from Luka being able to hunt him, which I totally admit is a valid argument. I don't think like Jaden Hardy and Josh Green and these guys off the bench are just going to be like unguardable for Peyton Pritchard. Like I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, maybe he'll mirror some of those minutes for Hardy and Josh Green, like you're saying. I mean, going to the basket, that's going to be a problem for him against both those guys. But we'll see. I don't mind Sam Hauser as much in this series. I don't really want to bet an over on either of them. I really wish the bet could just be Peyton Pritchard over under 13 and a half minutes. And then I would say, like, now that's where I feel the most confidence. But you're not wrong. I mean, that he's the type of guy that can just put up stats in a short amount of time. I'm kind of hoping we get through the first half. He doesn't get enough. He plays like 9 minutes, and then maybe he gets a couple in the third quarter, and that's kind of it. That's what I'm banking on. Still worth it to me for game one. A lot of stuff that we need to see how it plays out, and then we'll be able to talk about what adjustments clearly need to be made or could be made going into game two, which is always a really fun. Honestly, like researching for game two is going to be way more fun than game one because there's a little bit of guesswork that goes into how these teams are going to play once you throw out the regular season stuff. So that's a really good segue into saying come back and check out the rest of these videos, the rest of this series, as we're going to be coming back to each and every game that we have left this NBA postseason. So definitely subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. And until we see you next, happy betting.